Yes, the boys, what is going on, lads? I hope everyone is well. This has been a highly requested video, and it's one that's going to offer a lot of value. Maybe you are that person last year who didn't quite get in shape for summer. You left it a little bit too late. Maybe you wasn't happy with the results. Maybe you thought you could have got a little bit leaner, okay? Maybe you didn't have a full six-pack, maybe you had a four-pack, and you thought, shit, next year is going to be different. Well, listen, this video is really going to help you understand fat loss, what it is, the principles surrounding fat loss, and how we actually create a plan, both with a training plan and a diet plan, that is going to guarantee you results. Okay. Now, most people overcomplicate fat loss and they want to make it sound like it's rocket science. It isn't. We just need to track a few variables, aka calories in versus calorie out. We need to track our training and we need to track our cardio and NEAT, okay, which I'll go over in this video. First of all, I want you to understand what body fat is. Okay, now when you overeat foods, your body will store any extra food as body fat. So it's extra energy that we're storing as body fat, okay? And it comes down to overeating foods. So the first thing we want to come on to is calories in versus calories out. Now, every single person who's watching this video will have a certain amount of calories they need to eat to maintain their body weight, okay? This is called your maintenance calories. Once you understand this, it's very easy to either go into a deficit, aka lose body fat, or go into a surplus and gain weight, okay? And a good starting point for most people is around 2,400 calories, okay? Now, I'll go into this in a little bit more detail, but I want to explain proper training routine and technique next. Now, without proper training routine and technique, you really will struggle to hold on to a lot of the muscle you've built through all that hard work through the winter, okay? And training smart is going to always trump just training hard, all right? Because inevitably in a diet, you're going to be eating less and less food, which means your recovery capability becomes less and less. So in most cases during a diet, it's actually about training less, not more, okay? Just because you're going to run into recovery issues when food isn't high. And then cardio and NEAT. Now, cardio can be implemented when we need it, okay? It's a very, very useful tool of increasing the amount of calories we burn throughout the day, as well as NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Now, this is things like walking, going down the stairs, even tapping your foot underneath your desk if that's something you do. These are all what we call NEAT, okay? These are things we do without even thinking about it. So as long as we understand these, we can move on to the next slide. Now, the next slide is going to be more about calories, and this is something that I touched on in that first slide. Now, fat loss happens when we are in a calorie deficit, okay? So if you are eating more food than it takes to maintain your body weight, this is what we call a surplus. Eating in a calorie deficit means eating less food than it takes to maintain your body weight, okay? So let's go back to our maintenance. Let's say our maintenance is 2,500. If we know that's our maintenance calories we need to eat to maintain our body weight, we need to eat less than that, okay? And then what happens is your body will draw energy from that stored body fat, because it's energy at the end of the day, to make up the calories. So you actually burn through fat, the energy that's stored in fat, sorry, to keep your body alive, basically, okay? So again, what we want to think about is starting off on a really, really steady amount of food across a week, or maybe 2 weeks for some people. So the maintenance calories we want to start off is around 2,500 for most people, okay? Now, if we want to create a deficit, we need to take a little bit of food away from that. So a good start point would be 2,200. Now, again, like I've just said, this small deficit, we don't need to go into a massive deficit. I often see lads starting diets on 1,600 calories, hoping to get shredded quickly. Now, listen, the big thing you need to understand, your body is very fucking clever and it wants to keep you alive, okay? If you push too hard, your body will resist, all right? And if it wasn't for that mechanism, this is called the thyroid, if it wasn't for the thyroid mechanism, we would die when we were cavemen, all right? The human race would be no more, because sometimes we didn't eat for 2 or 3 days. You know, if our tribe didn't hunt a fucking deer or whatever, and we didn't eat for 2 or 3 days, you would die if your metabolism or your thyroid kept up at that same rate. So what we need to think about is actually just easing body fat off, aiming for around 0.75 to a kilo per week for a lot of people is the sweet spot, okay? But we need to be consistent with the food. This is one of the big things that I see. Lads aren't consistent with their food. They're snacking in between meals. They're not accurately weighing their food. They don't have a clue of how many calories they're actually eating. Now, if you don't know how many calories you're eating, how the fuck will you ever gain weight knowing what we've learned about calories in versus calories out? Okay, so we cannot eyeball food. This is another big point that I want to bring to it, because again, often had lads speak to lads and they say, oh, I'm eating in a deficit, but I'm just not losing weight. You cannot eyeball your food. If you don't know how much you're eating, it's very, very difficult to track. Okay, I've been doing this 18 years and I still can't really eyeball correctly, especially when I'm in a diet, because let's face it, when you're in a diet and you try and eyeball your food, you're always going to put more food on the plate. Okay, we are human, it's what we do. So moving on to the next slide. So this is the first thing we need to think about. We need to start weighing ourselves. We need to just weigh ourselves in the morning. It should be the first thing you do. Get up, use the toilet if you need to, jump on that scale. Whatever that number is, write it down, okay? And we need to do that at least 3 times a week, ideally, okay? Simply because it gives us a more accurate understanding of where our body weight is. For some people, their body weight can fluctuate through day to day. And now this depends on quite a few things: how much water you've drunk, how stressed you are, if you've had a bad night's sleep, that can affect your weight, and gastric emptying. You know, if you haven't been to the toilet for a few days, that can increase your weight because you're storing a lot of that waste within your gut ready to go to the toilet. So the first thing we'd want to do is start weighing ourselves. Once we've got that and keeping a log of that, then we can understand how many calories we actually need to lose body fat. So if we're eating, let's say 2,500 calories, and we're weighing ourselves every morning and the scale weight isn't moving, we know that this is our maintenance calories, okay? And from there, then we can go into a deficit, okay? So once you've got your maintenance, for everyone this is going to be a little bit different, so it might take you a week or two to find this. Once you've got your maintenance, you want to take away around 200 to 300 calories to create a deficit, okay? So then, after about a week, you should see your scale weight start to drop. Now, if you start on 2,500 and you see the scale weight go up, this means you're in a surplus and you need less food, okay? Now, once you've got the baseline for your calories, which means your maintenance, then we take away a lot of the guesswork. And like I've just said, we can start off by reducing by about 300 calories, okay? So the first goal we need to think about is actually finding that maintenance number, okay? Now, this is another tip we can use. Now, cardio is great, but it's not necessarily needed all the time. It's a good way to burn extra calories, and honestly, I like putting it in. It's good for your heart, it keeps you nice and healthy, but I would only start to add cardio in when hunger starts to rise, okay? So let's say we start on 2,300, we start dropping, we get to about 2,000, and you really start to get hungry. Now, instead of dropping food, we can actually just increase the amount we move, which is going to help burn more calories, okay? That's a really good tip for anyone that gets really hungry in a diet. Just increase the amount you move. Now, I get it, cardio is fucking boring. Personally, I play games on my phone, I watch TV series, whatever I'm doing, I keep myself occupied. The last thing you want to do is just stare at a screen for 30 minutes because it's fucking boring. I get it. The last thing we need to think about is taking photos each week. These are really important. It might seem like a little thing. It might not seem like nothing is happening or anything is happening. But photos give us an accurate representation of how we're looking, okay? If you take a photo at the start of your diet and then every single week leading up to your leanest point, you will see a change over time, all right? Now, week to week, you might not see much. It's almost going to be like watching paint dry or watching grass grow. But if you took a picture now and then in 4 weeks' time, you would definitely see a change if you were doing all these things and moving in the right direction. Now, a lot of lads don't have a meal plan. They say they eat healthy and they kind of just grab whatever they can, especially if they're working like a construction job or, you know, on the road quite a lot. Meal prepping is so important, and the reason why I never program macros, or if it fits your macros, is because it's just shit. What we want to think about is if you've ever been told that your body is what you eat, it's fucking true. Everything you do, your body's built up of by the food you eat. All right, think about that. I want you to think about that. The things you put in your mouth are what help build and repair your body. So, although calories matter the most, calories in versus calories out, bringing you back to that last slide, the quality of food needs to be of importance too. We can't just eat, fucking a bowl, like as many Frosters as we can to fit our macros. We need to think about high quality protein, we need to think carbohydrates, and we need to think what fats we're eating as well, okay? So we always go with lean protein sources: chicken, fish, eggs, steak, minced beef. These kind of things are great. Protein powder. We want to use whole carbohydrates. Now the reason for this is because they digest very easily for a lot of people, and you're not really going to spike your insulin too much. Whereas if you were using processed foods, not only is there a lot of additives in there, but oftentimes there's a lot of things in there that help them taste nice, such as sugar, which can spike your insulin. If your insulin spikes, you start crashing, and then you're going to crave food later on. Okay, so whole carbohydrate sources are really, really important. They're going to help keep your blood glucose a lot more stable and provide energy throughout the day. Now, healthy fats. Why do we use fats? Now, when I first started training, I thought fats were the enemy, so I used to eat zero fats. How naive was I? Luckily, you guys have got all the information available. Now, healthy fats are really, really important to help us maintain good hormonal function. Not only that, they have a lot of other kind of downstream benefits. Now, if you've heard of cholesterol, these are created from fats, and cholesterol downstream turns into some steroidal hormones, such as testosterone being a big one. And also they help provide like lubrication to the gut. All right, so there is quite a few good factors around healthy fats. Now, this isn't kind of, we don't want to get most of our fats from like cheese or anything like that. We want to get good healthy fats. All right, and then vegetables. Vegetables are obviously very important, not only for the minerals and the vitamin side of things, but also for fiber. You know, we want to be able to pass through waste product nice and easy. Again, if we're eating clean and we're eating healthy and we're meal prepping in advance, these foods will control hunger. White potatoes are one of the most satiating foods you can eat. Okay, and obviously when you're hungry, satiation is a huge part of sticking to your diet. Right? If you're hungry 24/7, if you just eat fucking, I don't know, if you was on 2,000 calories and you ate a boneless banquet twice from KFC, you'd be fucking starving, and it's shit food. All right, so not only does eating clean and eating high quality foods help with hunger, but it also helps with, again, fueling training, recovery, and obviously provides the vitamins and minerals that we need. Now, when we think about training, what is the goal during a diet? The goal is to lose fat and maintain muscle. Okay, you're not necessarily going to be building muscle in a diet. So we want to be able to fuel the sessions so we can still train as hard and intense as we were to keep the muscle that we built. Okay, a lot of lads cut out carbs, and this is why they end up looking skinny fat with no muscle, because they lose a lot of it through poor nutrition and poor training, because you can train too much during a diet, unfortunately. So how does cardio help fat loss? Again, like I said earlier, cardio isn't mandatory. Okay, you don't have to do it, but it will make fat loss a hell of a lot easier. Okay, cardio helps by increasing the daily calorie expenditure, aka you burn more calories just by doing cardio, just like steps. It improves cardiovascular fitness. We spoke about this. It gives you a nice and healthy heart. It also helps you stop from gassing out. If you're someone that does like I don't know, a hack squat or any kind of squat movement where it's a bit, or a deadlift, and you get gassed quite quickly and you feel your lungs are gassing before you actually reached muscular failure, this means your cardio is shit. You need more cardio. Okay, obviously it gives you more energy. Now, cardio will also help create a larger calorie deficit rather than eating less food. Okay, we know that the driving factor of fat loss is being in a calorie deficit. If you are not in a calorie deficit, you won't lose fat. But what we can do is actually eat at maintenance if you wanted to, and just do more and more cardio. Walk more throughout the day. Do more stuff that's going to help burn calories. Now, personally, I like to keep food as high as possible and use cardio and movement as the driving factor, because if we're eating more food, not only are we getting more nutrition that's going to help your body maintain muscle, burn body fat, but also you're getting a lot of these minerals and vitamins through as well. If you just eat less food, you're going to get less of those, which is really going to hinder your recovery between sessions, which could result in losing muscle. So some good options for cardio would be running, the good old Stairmaster. Swimming is a great one, cross trainer, and walking in capital letters, one of the best ways to burn body fat and increase your expenditure. Realistically, you want to be aiming for at least 10,000 steps a day, right? And now walking is so good because it's very, very low impact. It's going to cause a lot less fatigue than the rest. You know, Stairmaster is kind of the fan favorite for bodybuilders, but unfortunately it builds a lot of fatigue. You know, if you've ever done like a long period on the Stairmaster, You can have lower back pumps, it can pump your shins, and you'll often feel fucked the day after. All right, whereas walking, you could walk all fucking day if you really wanted to and not feel too bad about it. So this is an example meal plan, okay? Now, we want to be eating at least 3 to 4 times a day, realistically 4, simply because muscle protein synthesis is activated by something called leucine that you get from protein sources. Now, if you only eat 3 times a day, this means you're only getting 3 activations of mTOR, which is basically building muscle protein synthesis. If you spread this out more frequently through the day, you can have more spikes, which means you're going to stimulate more muscle growth or muscle maintenance. Okay, so this is a simple meal plan. This is around 2,350 calories. If you want to copy this, go ahead and screenshot this now. Okay. Now, this is the next slide I'm going to show you is a simple training plan that you can do, a 4-day split. So I like to call this the lazy bodybuilding split because we can still make solid gains with training 4 days a week. It's not optimal. You know, five would be really the optimal for most people, but we can still make good gains on 4 days a week. And this would be perfect for someone who's quite busy at work or, you know, has got family responsibilities. So we could split 4 days up into a upper-lower split, or we could do push-pull lower upper. Okay. Now, how we structure workouts personally within the RiseUp coaching program is in relation to how we want to build your body. Okay, so if you've got glaring weaknesses that we want to work on, these will be prioritized. AKA, if you have a weak chest, we'll train chest first or more frequently across the week. You shouldn't be putting your workouts together willy-nilly or copying what your mate does, because the likelihood is his training plan, he's copied off someone else who's got a totally different needs analysis than you. Okay, if you want to grow your arms, these should be priority. If you want to grow your chest, they should be a priority. If you want to grow your shoulders, they should be a priority. If you look at your training program and you want to grow your shoulders, but you train your shoulders once a week and they're last in the session, you're not going to grow shoulders. Okay, you need to prioritize the different muscle groups in order through your workout to make them grow. Okay, that's when that's when you're more fresh. If you train shoulders at the start of a session, you're going to be fresh. You're going to put more effort into them. You're going to get more growth. Now, this is a training split for you all to go away and copy. So again, if you want to take a screenshot, please do. Push, pull, lower, upper. Very, very easy. Again, this is a very standard program. I can't remember who this was for, but I definitely stole it off one of our clients. And there's not a lot of volume there, but this particular program was built for that particular client. Okay, so again, if you see this program and you wanted to grow, let's say you wanted to grow more shoulders, you probably want to look at where shoulders are positioned. So in this particular one, we've got shoulders here at the start, which is great. And then upper body, you probably want to bring maybe the incline Smith a bit closer to here. Okay, but this is how we would set out a training program for someone training 4 days a week. Now, hopefully this video you've taken something away. Okay, if you've watched this and you still have any questions or you want some help with looking at your current training program or your current diet program, or things are still a little bit confusing to you, you're not sure on how to track food or weigh food or what a calorie even is, then I advise you to reach out. You know, advice is free. I'm not going to charge you for advice, but again, if you are someone that has struggled to lose body fat before and you haven't really got the results you wanted to, reach out, let me know. Okay, I'm sure we can help. Anyway, guys, if you've got to the end of this video, I really appreciate it. If you feel this has helped, drop me a message, let me know. And if you need any more advice, again, always here to help. I'll catch you later, guys.